Gold Coast property predictions. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode. I hope you're having a relaxing Sunday. I thought we'd spend the afternoon by having a look at some Gold Coast property predictions in this article written by Jessica Brown from the Gold Coast Bulletin. Now I have my stein of water today and we will have a look. Let's go through. Now, there's a few things to consider with this. Gold Coast is essentially a tourist destination. Now, with the decline in international tourism that I am certain Australia is going to see this year due to the huge amount of bushfires, do you think that will have an effect on the Gold Coast economy? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I think it might. Even though the fires haven't really affected the Gold Coast much. It doesn't matter. The start of a new year heralds fresh beginnings. While the Gold Coast property market emerged relatively unscathed from the chaos of 2019, a clean slate is a welcome relief. Well, that's because I'd say the Gold Coast and Brisbane, we haven't boomed as much or gone as insane as Sydney and Melbourne. Just the prices there are ludicrous. You can still get a house for a reasonable price here in Brisbane. Property experts have dusted off their crystal balls to tell us what they think the next year has in store. So here they're going through a whole series of experts, real estate agents from the Gold Coast to see what they predict for the sunny getaway for Brisbane. So Andrew Bell, Ray White Surface Paradise, the group chief executive. Let's see what his prediction is. Real estate is performing well in a world, an economy that is otherwise producing more concerns than optimism. It is clearly the preferred option for people over leaving their money in the bank or investing in a volatile stock market. With population growth well exceeding the supply of new property and with record low interest rates, real estate is likely to continue to be the preferred asset class for most Australians. With increasing numbers of retiring baby boomers, the Gold Coast is likely to see a steady flow of migrators from southern states, giving us a healthy supply of well-financed buyers. Housing affordability and tighter lending regulations will keep a lid on rampant price growth, so 2020 should be a good, healthy, steady market for the Gold Coast. Tighter lending regulations, I thought lending regulations had been eased up by APRA, at least the requirement for repayments. But he makes a very good point here. If you're in Melbourne or you're in Sydney and you want to retire and cash out, you'll go to this nice sunny Gold Coast. You can get yourself a nice little apartment or a duplex or a townhouse, very cheap compared to what you're paying in Sydney or Melbourne. You can still buy a nice little 2-bedroom place with the 2 in the front, guys. And then you can just relax and enjoy living there. So he's got a good point there. We may see an influx of people as more and more retire to the Gold Coast. So Michael Kolish, the director of Kolisher, I think 2020 will be a continuation of what we've seen in the past 6 months, with stock levels drying up in the prestige market. The lack of supply is putting pressure on pricing. As interest rates remain low, fewer people are wanting or needing to sell, and that seems to be the catalyst for the market conditions we're seeing. It's been strong, and I think it will continue to have slow and steady growth. So, we're looking at here, the arrears rates in Queensland have gone up, but with interest rates going down and another cut predicted in February, it may address this. We'll have to wait and see. So, Tommy Stevens from Hardcourts, Coastal Agent. Let's have a look. The prospects for the Gold Coast market over the next 12 months are incredibly exciting. With interest rates at all-time lows and many experts believing they will remain so, we are currently experiencing an ideal buying scenario for those wishing to invest in the region. Sales volume is up, and effects of the Banking Royal Commission are well behind us, and southern interest in our market is the best we've ever seen. Again, it's this southern interest. So, here's the question. Would you invest in the Gold Coast with an expectation of receiving a rental return from tourists, with the risk that that could implode? Or are we going to see people making the change, making the sea change, selling out from Melbourne, Sydney, and moving up to live on the Gold Coast. I grew up on the Gold Coast. It's a nice area. I mean, it's not a city. You can't compare it to Melbourne, Brisbane, or Sydney with any stretch of the imagination. It's not really a city, guys. I know everyone's going to hate me on the Gold Coast that says that, but still, you don't have the same... How can I put this? I wouldn't say it's as sophisticated as real cities. So, Ali Mian, Ray White, Runaway Bay Group Principal. The Gold Coast real estate market for most of 2020 will continue to grow on trend. The city is heading towards a bumper year as its population is growing at a reasonable rate and billions of dollars have gone into infrastructure spend over the last 7 years. The city is reaping the rewards from it now. Developers' confidence in the city's real estate market for new dwellings has a positive outlook, which will encourage developers to construct more new dwellings that will provide more jobs. Historic low interest rates are also offering great opportunities for first-home buyers and investors to invest in the real estate market. Now, here's another thing that none of these agents will mention. It's to do with the quality of stock that's constructed in the Gold Coast, guys. Because the shonky developers you have in Sydney and Melbourne and everywhere around the country, we also have here. We also have on the Gold Coast. And a good trick, a good tip, is when you're looking at buying a potential apartment, go down in the basement and just look at the slab. Look at the quality of the slab in the basement above your head. Look for any patching, look for any water leaking, look for any signs of concrete cancer. Ask people. We had one person, because I was doing this with my mother, we were looking around at different townhouses and apartments. There's one on Chevron Island where we just happened to ask someone walking in and out of the building, and he told us there was concrete cancer in a part of the building and they had to put money into it and that was an issue. And that's not an element of stress you want to deal with normally, let alone if you are retiring. You don't want to have to deal with that. And that's just one little suggestion I would make to everyone, because the rain on the Gold Coast can be pretty ferocious sometimes and water can get in everywhere. And if it hasn't been built properly, you can get water issues. And yeah, I mean, some of the older ones too, guys. It's Luke Henderson, John Henderson, Professionals, Director and Auctioneer. So, housing on absolute beachfront will continue to see price rises. This will allow the less expensive properties to also move forward in price to fill that gap. Now, here's a funny thing. All these people are concerned about the sea levels rising in the next 50 years, but the market isn't telling us that that's going to happen, is it? Because all these properties that are meant to be underwater, they're still being purchased, they're still at a high level. So I think I'll trust the market with regards to that one and some of the other information I've read, but just a funny insight there to consider. Money should remain cheap to borrow and more readily available from the banks, which will see buyers upgrading to better quality positions, either on nicer water or closer to the beach. The entry-level market will remain strong as more parents push their children to buy property, and job growth continues to increase due to many infrastructure projects and the benefits and opportunities that flow in from that. So this is the thing. That's another consideration of buying near infrastructure projects, as depending on the time frame, as a return on your investment for your property. So Amir Prestige Property Agents, and he's the principal. I see more stability in the marketplace, especially investment stock, as the returns in the banks are very low, which will push investors to secure more steady income through a strong rental market and also potential capital gains. The medium price bracket will flourish as low interest rates will push affordability higher, and also cashed up interstate buyers will keep eyeing the Gold Coast market, which they still see as great value and a better lifestyle. Well, yeah, no, he makes a good point. I mean, lifestyle's pretty good on the Gold Coast, particularly if you're retired. The high price bracket will perform at a more steady rate, as well as demand is still there, whereas there are less properties on the market compared to the last 2 years. Hope Island, Sovereign Island, Isle of Capri, Paradise Waters, Mermaid Beach, Mermaid Waters in the hinterland are always on the high-end buyers search list. A lot of those are suburbs. John Neward's, Professional Neward Surface Paradise Director and Principal. So, confidence has returned to our market since the federal election in June. With the fear of negative gearing being abolished removed, affordability combined with record low interest rates make it an ideal time to invest into property. We're starting to see a strong surge from buyers relocating to the Gold Coast from Sydney and Melbourne, whereby they can sell up at a higher price and possibly purchase a better property and have money left over. With advances in technology and more low-cost flights, people are able to live here and work interstate. Next year is shaping up to be a good year for both buyers and sellers. Well, yeah, that's the rise of the flight commuters. It's another consideration. Katrina Walsh, I firmly believe 2020 is poised for a stellar year of growth in the Gold Coast market. If the strong buyer demand we have seen at the end of 2019 is any indication, then we are certainly in for further robust market conditions, with a continuing alignment of key market fundamentals, which includes low interest rates, infrastructure growth, and unprecedented interstate migration. The Gold Coast is still one of the best value markets in the country. Very exciting times ahead. So this is we're seeing an interesting pattern here that most of these agents are pinning a lot of hope on interstate migration, which is how my family ended up on the Gold Coast, from Victoria up to here. So it'll be interesting to see if that influx of boomers coming to the Gold Coast will lift the property market, particularly if we enter into a recession next year, how that will affect this. This year. Andrew Henderson. This year is shaping up to be a great one for Gold Coast property owners and buyers. Our local economy continues to benefit from strong migration to the city, a buoyant tourism industry, that's going to be an issue, and other factors such as low interest rate and low unemployment will fuel property demand in the coming years. Freestanding houses in established Gold Coast suburbs will continue to record strong price growth. Similarly, units in small boutique buildings located near the beach will also enjoy high price growth. With the light rail extension to Burleigh Heads getting the green light and talks already underway to extend to the airport, the demand for real estate will remain strong along the beachside strip between Broadbeach and Tugun. And of course, those special properties along the beachfront, on the river, or on large lots will continue to be sought after by buyers. So Mitchell Palmer. I expect the Gold Coast property market will perform very well throughout the first half of 2020. Low stock levels will continue to create strong demand, complemented by interest rates still at record lows, strong interest rate migration, and access to credit somewhat easier. The second half of the year will be more uncertain, with debt now growing faster than income. Our market bottomed out in the third quarter of last year, but at a much higher level than 2011. APRA's influence on access to housing credit could take a little of the wind out of the sails for the second half of 2020. Any interest rate cuts will only be useful to those that can get access to a loan. So this is a first one who's made this point, which is insightful. A year from now, I anticipate the median sale price for the Gold Coast to be up, but with most of the heavy lifting taking place in the first half of the year. Joe Josh Willett from McGrath, Palm Beach. With buyer confidence at an all-time high, low interest rates, and low availability of stock, it's the perfect recipe to see fantastic growth in the Gold Coast real estate market for 2020, particularly in the southern end of the Gold Coast, where we're seeing a huge influx of southerners mixing in with the enormous amount of infrastructure spending coming from both state and federal government, with the light rail extension and the M1 widening approval from Varsity Lakes through to the Tugun bypass. With all this positive news, how can we not say we are in for an amazing 2020? And Lucy Cole, from Lucy Cole Prestige, Managing Director. It's interesting she's got that property. There's been some issues on site with the Jewel. There have been incredible happenings with the federal election early in the year and its unexpected result. This in turn gave confidence back to the market. Interest rates have been at an all-time low and will continue to stay low. The upheaval in Hong Kong has our expats seeking opportunities to return into Australia. And, well, many of them may be forced to return to Australia, at least to sell, before the middle of the year. No one's mentioned that. That's with the capital gains tax changes. There's definitely a resurgence in the marketplace for units, be it from investors or for people downsizing. Real estate agencies are experiencing a shortage of quality properties to sell for waterfront, villas, units, acreage, and penthouses. Next year is going to see great growth for the Gold Coast. So there you have it, guys. A series of predictions from real estate agents on the Gold Coast, pinning their hopes on southern investors, APRA making it easy to get access to money, low interest rates, even southern retirees as well, and foreign expats returning home. What do you think? Do you think the tourism dent will have an effect on property prices in the Gold Coast? Do you think the southerners will actually move up? Let me know your predictions in the comments below, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to help us produce more content, I have a Patreon where you can make a small monthly donation. You can also become a member of the channel on YouTube and receive access to emojis and badges. We have affiliate links with Independent Reserve, Amazon, and eBay. And we also sell our very own merch at the HeiseSays website. And finally, we have our very own PayPal. I got there eventually. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.